with, let's see, so let me pull up the names again. So Mike Wallace was the first buyer. That's your the realtor that you're speaking with first and foremost for discovery. And I think the assumption I had sort of made in that case was that it's a friend of yours. So, you know, Mike Wallace is a friend of yours, and you know, he works for North Coast. So he's kind of, you know, giving you some any intel that can maybe assist your sales efforts. So kind of use him as a, you know, an individual contributor, essentially, like consider him like a someone who's sales minded the same way you are. So he's a realtor for North Coast, friend of yours, kind of gave you the skinny on, you know, what's going on within the business, you know, possible shift to more of a longer term hybrid, you know, motion and hybrid sort of overall bit strategy. And that's what's kind of leading into discovery for Mike from there. Does that help?
If I would have read it, it says in parentheses, seller's personal friend.
There you go. Bingo. It's all right.
So, yeah, so it doesn't, they still have to work on their call intro when they're meeting someone for the first time.
Of course.
So for this one, it'll be a little bit easier. You know, it's, hey, Mike, you know, glad we had a chance to talk about this.
Right.
So let's go into it, you know.
That's it.
And just go into the agenda. All right.
It. You know, and
don't have to worry about rapport or anything like that.
Exactly. But he's still sort of, you know, to serve as, you know, a champion and a coach kind of both in certain regards, right? In terms of, you know, giving you that experience of a standard end user and someone that the organization relies on first and foremost for revenue production, right? So, you know, hearing directly from the staff that is most impacted by some of the, you know, the issues that exist, you know, within the internal landscape, and depending on where you're working, the differences in your ability to collaborate amongst your peers, certainly that would impact, you know, an individual contributor or producer like Mike first and foremost, you know, as he's collaborating with his mortgage loan officer, his fellow realtors, senior leadership, et cetera.
So, you know, it is interesting. You would think selling to a friend would be easy, but it's actually not.
Exactly.
You have to you have to approach it a little bit differently. It's like, you know, it's like having a professional peer and you hear, oh, there might be an opportunity. I think you just have to be careful how you approach it. So.
Of course. Yep. Yeah. You've got to separate the business and sort of the personal relationship, and sort of most simply state, hey, I mean, in this capacity within the scope of today's conversation, aside from the beers we had last weekend, you know, my primary effort is to, you know, make sure I have a full understanding on, you know, again, how the mid to longer term plan of the organization from an office footprint standpoint and a, you know, hybrid work style, you know, may have hampered, you know, your current experience, and you know, how we could put you in a better spot to do your job just that much more efficiently, right? And give you a little bit more free time.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly where they are. So they should, by the end of this week, everybody should have their agendas ready to go and set, the building core piece, and then their discovery questions set as well. So that's kind of where we are. And so tonight, not that you haven't already provided us with the cool PDF sheet, and you can obviously talk about anything we want, but tonight was going to be a little bit more about the solution that they actually have to offer that solves whatever problems they uncover.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll, let me share my screen here.
Yeah, I'm going to let you turn this on. I just want to welcome everybody. Really excited to have you all here. Thanks to those of you who came to last night's training at the PSA. I see Ross and some others here, which is great. The whole purpose of using our Professional Sales Association and our former sales students is to give you all additional support as you get ready and prepare for this competition, in addition to what you're doing in your classes and what you have with your faculty. The next training for that is going to actually happen on March 16th when you guys get back from break. And the idea there is that everybody's going to get a chance to do some practice role plays, get some feedback, do all those good things. I'm going to rope Ed into coming so he can give everybody a hard time. That was a joke, Ed. You can smile. It's all right. But without further ado, it's really exciting to have Gil back again. And so I am going to turn it over to you. Hopefully you are able to share.
Absolutely.
And this is being recorded, so everybody knows. And this is our last training session at NWN Carousel. So I want you all to take great notes. If a question was asked of you tomorrow, so, what are some of the key reasons why your solution is a good one? Why would I go with you? I'm hoping you're all able to answer that question at the end of today.
Absolutely. All right. So is this showing? It's not showing in the full regular presentation mode, is it? Actually, how about that? Are you seeing just the slide now? Just the NWA, the title slide?
It's coming in.
It's coming in.
There it is.
All right, beautiful. All right, folks. Well, again, good afternoon. Dawn, Jim, Ed, thank you for the time, and great to be with everyone again. So just to sort of bring everyone back up to speed, and please, I'm sure my slideware will be a little bit more conducive to some two-way dialogue at the tail end of our hour here. I'm not sure what I'll need for the formal kind of slide portion of the presentation. So I'd welcome your questions. And in addition to that, I know we're still, about 3 weeks away from competition day. So Dawn, Jim, I would very much welcome any follow-up questions. If there's anything I can't answer on the fly or anything we want to dig in on a little bit deeper with some subsequent information, I'm of course all ears to make sure your folks are as enabled as they can be. So I'll put that out there. But so, just to kind of refresh folks on, the case and kind of, how we as NWN Carousel, position ourselves, and as, Eddie had alluded to as, good commentary in our last discussion, this is a solution selling type of engagement. We're not, at NWN Carousel being an integrated cloud communications provider, our core values are making sure we're having business-oriented conversations and really ensuring that any of the solutions that ultimately we deem may be a valuable fit to your organization are squarely aligned to one or several of your highest level business outcomes as a for-profit organization. How is this solution directly helping increase revenue, reduce cost, mitigate risk, improve operational efficiency, or transform the customer experience? And by customer, we can mean certainly end customers to that organization or internal customers of that organization, AKA their employees, right? So everything that we do as NWN Carousel, the purpose-built technology solution portfolio that we've put together is squarely routed and rooted, I should say, in making sure that we are serving the organizations that we're working with highest level business objectives. So again, this is a solution sale. Our prospect North Coast has a unique set of business challenges. Of course, they've seen the drastic reduction in office attendance like so many commercial businesses did throughout the pandemic. They've got probably a large set of their user population that's gotten accustomed to working out of their home office, business on top, with a button-down shirt and maybe some basketball shorts on the bottom, as we're seeing so many times. And they're wanting to kind of continue with that hybrid work approach. But certainly, a few additional considerations that are weighing into where this organization goes are the fact that their IT director, that on-site resource, Steve Barlow, that they have really leveraged in terms of managing the internal communications and the communications platforms, whether it be the phone systems across those 6 physical locations, the video conferencing applications, all sort of disparate, more dated, physical on-premise based technology applications, not a lot of cohesion between those platforms. Of course, it's a tremendous job for Steve to, as we call it, keep the lights on in IT and make sure that everyone's able to place those outbound calls, receive inbound calls from potential customers, collaborate internally with their colleagues, their mortgage loan officers as they're working through a sales motion, just making sure that they have all of the right tools wherever they're operating to do their job with the utmost efficiency. So, as we look at, this business, there's certainly a sense of urgency, which, in the world of sales, creating a sense of urgency around, hey, here's why this problem is worth addressing now. There is that sense of urgency here. They've got these disparate on-premise based technology platforms that are aging. They're requiring that much more sort of on-site support, which Steve has been able to offer. Steve's retiring, right? And finding a backfill for an IT professional is not an easy task. It's not a cheap proposition. As we said they're paying Steve annually $180,000, which for an IT director in a mid-market organization is pretty accurate. You know, in addition to that, they've got a rented office space in Hartford, Connecticut that they're evaluating. Hey, is it even worth it to renew this lease? You know, we're hearing that there are some kind of new cloud-based collaboration communication platforms that, you know, would drastically sort of reduce the need for the physical office presence if we can create the same look and feel and offer that collaborative, cohesive environment with technology tools and applications. So that's where they stand. So, you know, 30 days, Steve's departing. Do we start interviewing candidates for his replacement? Or, you know, do we look towards sort of an enhanced all-in-one collaboration tool set and allowing us to really drastically reduce the complexity in that environment and therefore reduce the need for backfilling or replacing Steve as a full-time on-site IT professional? You know, reminder, you'll be speaking with a diverse mix of staff members. You know, as we said at the start of the call, you'll be speaking with an individual contributor. We're pretending for argument's sake, this is a friend of yours. You know, Mike Wallace, he's a realtor for the firm. He's seen the drastic growth. He, you know, benefited over time from the collaborative face-to-face environment that the office contributed to. He's certainly been shifted into a largely remote capacity as so many individuals were in the midst of COVID. So he's wondering, just like everyone else, you know, how the structure of the organization is going to look going forward. Additionally, you'll be meeting with Steve Barlow. You know, he's exiting stage left in 30 days time, but he's agreed to help the organization with sort of their go forward communication strategy before his exit date. And then lastly, Tricia Mansfield, the Chief Executive Officer of North Coast, really someone who's, let's call it old school in terms of really loving that office environment and the camaraderie and the collaborative environment that it fosters. But certainly she's becoming well aware that, you know, hey, COVID may have not just been a temporary shift in work styles. This is going to this has staying power. You know, the organization and the industry, and every single industry has shifted so largely to this hybrid, flexible work model in order to keep the right folks on staff and people that you know, want to grow with the organization and be a part of an evolving organization. She's realizing that they need the right platforms in place to foster that environment wherever people want to work from. As long as they're delivering their promise to the organization, delivering revenue, closing deals, buying and selling houses, then who cares where they're doing the job from, right? And that's the ultimate sort of takeaway. So, you know, this is some slideware, and I'd urge you folks in any capacity you'd like to certainly use whatever you find, you know, within the presentations here that I'll flip over to Dawn, as well as the NWN Carousel website, nwncarousel.com. There's a tremendous amount of information there. You know, as I alluded to in our last conversation, one way that we've really transformed our go-to-market proposition, our value proposition, we're an integrated cloud communications provider. You know, we used to call ourselves a technology integrator or a value-added reseller of various technology solutions. Really understanding the dramatic sort of shift in this working landscape towards hybrid work, integrated cloud communications provider, it really allows us to cover the bases. Our portfolio really hasn't changed at its core, but our go-to-market strategy is heavily aligned to, again, driving towards those highest level business outcomes, doing your work on your terms with the technology tools and resources that you need, regardless of where you are physically, right? This is how you attract and retain top talent as an organization. You know, being willing to be flexible with the work styles of your employees. So really leading into that, you know, the way people work has changed. A lot of working styles. A lot of people love, you know, face-to-face video collaboration. I do one-on-ones with my team members every week. We always meet via video, right? It's a great way to kind of nurture the same environment that we would have in a face-to-face environment. You know, but people communicate with video, messaging, in office, on the road. Of course, you know, will still be a prevalent part of, you know, any realty association, and then fully remote, right? You know, allowing folks to do the job from the home office as long as they've got the right resources. Hybrid work, this whole work from anywhere, as we've all seen. Work from anywhere at any time across teams even the idea of the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 workday has shifted dramatically. You know, just like anybody else, there are times if it's a little bit sunny at the end of the day, excuse me, I may go and take that walk from 4 to 5 p.m. and then I log back on for a couple hours in the evening. And again, being equipped with the tools in your home office to do your job just as efficiently as you were if you were in a physical corporate office, that's what matters most. Internal and external collaboration, you know, the value chain and sort of nurturing this collaborative environment certainly extends beyond the bounds of your physical office premises and your internal staff members. How can a realtor additionally benefit? How can a mortgage loan officer benefit from being able to send a potential or a current client a bridge, a dial-in number and a link to a secure video conferencing or audio bridging application where they can get the same information, share the same information, have the same negotiation back and forth without driving, getting 2 hours of windshield time. You know, how much more time in the day can be earned back by all parties, right? And allowing folks to be just that much more efficient with their day-to-day. And then being an agile organization, right? Really needing to decide, adapt, and act with speed, right? We're in an age where we all know the realities. Decisions are expecting to be made a lot quicker. There's so much more information, so more quickly and readily available at our fingertips. So being an agile organization, being willing and able and equipped with the tools and resources to quickly connect, quickly foster that level of communication that you need to get the job done. So, hybrid work, it still requires, as a, key portion of our, value proposition as we work with prospective and our current customers, really understanding the various working styles of the parts of the organization that make up the whole. Everyone's got a different job function, and therefore everyone is going to rely on, in some capacities, a different tool set, but all sort of tying back to an integrated, stable cloud communications environment will serve everyone tremendously well, right? Versus sort of the piece-parted, okay, I'm calling from the Hartford office to one of the mortgage loan officers in Montpelier. I gotta, pull up that individual's phone number because we're not all in the same system. We've got different phone systems in all these buildings. So, okay, let me scramble and find that person's, phone number, make the call, and that's where that ends. If we're on site in a physical conference room, okay, I've got a Polycom conference room in this location, and in Montpelier, it may be an aging Zoom room or an old Cisco Tandberg video conferencing system. Do I need to call Steve Barlow, my IT director, to make sure that we have the firewall provisioned properly before we even get on that video call? All very real experiences that organizations face, right? As they have grown with the time, certainly that growth is not always done with the highest level of efficiency or scalability, given some of these antiquated platforms. And that's where bringing everything under the umbrella of sort of a unified, integrated cloud communications platform helps dramatically lower that complexity, lower the barriers, and provides tremendous ease of use for every single end user, whether they're technology savvy or not. So companies with great employee experiences, this is sourced through MIT, certainly an institution we can all trust. Companies with great employee experiences see a 25% increase in profits and 2 times more customer satisfaction and innovation. And I'm sure it goes without saying that customer sat and innovation extends to our end customers, for a realtor organization, the buyers and sellers of those properties, as well as the internal customers, right? The internal customers to IT being every single end user that's using that phone system, that's using that messaging application, that's using that video conferencing application. So it goes without saying that, this hybrid approach has certainly tremendous benefits on the bottom line, of an organization, their ability to work efficiently and effectively if properly integrated. So, here's where NWN Carousel, comes into play. If you're stuck at a crossroads, let us design a sustainable, scalable, reliable hybrid work model for you. And I'll certainly, Dawn, make sure that, I don't know how big this is coming through for you folks. Can you see that okay? and I'll make sure to flip it over if it is a little bit small. You'll have the slide where after the fact. But again, an integrated offerings portfolio, we really manage as NWN Carousel the entire life cycle from, helping you sort of vet what tools and resources are most critical to your organization, what your technology footprint looks like now, what types of applications have been the most benefit to you as an organization as you continue to navigate the new normal of hybrid work. Understanding through thorough discovery what the business requires, what you're looking to get out of that integrated cloud communications platform or strategy. Project management, a team of PMP certified project managers that are highly skilled and capable with the PMP framework or the project methodology at their backing to make sure that they fully understand the key, performance indicators, the key success criteria that a customer like North Coast would evaluate prior to making a decision on the right vendor to help with this migration. Customer success, another huge portion of our value proposition. Once we, design the right environment for you, we help you implement it. We take that implementation workload off of your internal staff's hands, whether you have that internal staff or not. Design, implement, and manage, right? We manage the infrastructure on a go-forward basis. We monitor your environment to ensure that it is delivering exactly what we promised at the forefront. We can provide you a dashboard through our experience management platform, which gives you insight into the environment, into utilization of the calling platform, into utilization of video conferencing, of the messaging application, to make sure that the organization and the end user is using the platforms to their fullest extent, right? To make sure that there is a true and tangible return on the investment being made by North Coast. Customer success, making sure that on an ongoing basis, as you onboard new staff members, there's a learning curve, right? Every single new hire that's brought into the organization needs to gain familiarity with the tool set at their disposal, ensuring that you have the right sort of knowledge transfer between current staff members and new staff members is absolutely critical. And if you don't have an IT member on staff, that's absolutely more so where you're going to rely on a partner like NWN Carousel. By the way, we've got a best-in-class Net Promoter Score in the high 70s. Net Promoter Score is evaluated on a scale of -100 to +100, and it really speaks to an organization's willingness to recommend the products or services of the organization that they're partnering with. So that says that, on that scale of -100 to +100, I forget what the industry average is, in the 70s is well above industry average. So our customers are shouting from the rooftops that, hey, if you choose NWN Carousel as your organization grows and grows in complexity and maturity, you've got the right technology partner to help you navigate that really quickly evolving landscape. And they'll keep you abreast of, the latest and greatest and let you know how you can make the best use of your technology investment now and into the future. Any questions there before I feel like I need to take a breather? Anybody have any questions thus far?
I have a couple.
Please.
So, like virtual, remote desktop, all that stuff, would they consider having that included in type of service, or should they not? Is that something different?
I would say, for the purposes of this, now while we do operate up and down the IT stack, as we would call it, from the end user devices, the laptops, we can source all of those things and help you with patch management, imaging. That would be a very robust and an extremely in-depth conversation, Dawn. So for the purposes of our case study here, I figured we'd keep it much more
Simple.
Telephony, so calling, messaging, and video conferencing, in nature. I think we could probably go down a rabbit hole and we could do 10 sessions if we really brought in the intricacies of, the full sort of data center, et cetera, component. So I'd urge us to kind of keep this, collaboration suite specific in sort of our messaging and our value proposition.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then the only other one, and it may fall into that same category.
Sure.
Last night was, so a lot of closings are now done remotely, right? There's a whole set
Sure.
of that kind of thing. Should they need to be prepared for the service offerings that exist or no? Like,
I'm sorry, you broke up right there. Prepared for
all the like all the notary type stuff that has to go along with the closing for properties.
Sure.
additional new technologies now that enable that to be done more quickly. I just don't know if they need to worry about that. I'm thinking the answer to that is also no. But
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say we go to that, to that level of complexity. If you feel differently, or if you have some thoughts, we can certainly discuss and build that out. But in terms of an objection, to your point, Dawn, I would not expect, our buyers to offer that objection within the scope of this.
So Gil, I have a quick question. Ultimately, when they're talking to Tricia, is it the solution will ultimately be able to replace the IT person? So when they think about value, so there might be some cost related to downtime, for example, and things like that, but also just the cost of the IT person supporting all those locations. Is that a good assumption?
That would be a good assumption, yes.
Okay.
And again, this would dovetail into, of course, there are numerous and more parts of an IT environment than we could, realistically touch within
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
a 101 sales level exercise. So there are, of course, parts of the infrastructure which would go well outside of just, delivering a cloud-based or a hybrid, a cloud-based collaboration tool. Of course, there's all the networking, the wiring closets, the individual, patch cords to each workstation, et cetera, that, we're not going to necessarily get into. For argument's sake, I would say that from a day-to-day management perspective, it is a safe assumption that, yes, if we are able to sort of wave bye-bye to the dated infrastructure, both from a telephony and a in a collaboration space sort of discussion, then we can remove the need for a full-time dedicated staff member. And if there is any kind of one-off objection raised along those lines, I would say that's where, again, the value of the relationship with an integrated cloud communications provider like NWN Carousel. Of course, hybrid work is our primary value proposition currently, just given the nature of business, but we support, data center design and implementation. We can absolutely help with, switching refreshes and all of those back-end and associated technology platforms that, hey, if you do ultimately decide that you don't need a full-time IT director to, manage a fairly set it and forget it sort of switching infrastructure or wireless network, that's where, again, you'd lean on a partner like NWN Carousel as it did come time to maybe refresh some of those other associated technologies.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yep.
Great question. Thank you. What else? All right. Well, I'll keep charging ahead here. So, I covered kind of the left portion. Our cloud services, as I say here, empowers millions of users across over 7,000 customers of NWN Carousel in support of this sort of work from anywhere strategy. So, the end-to-end collaboration platform, ensuring that, we're offering you a fully secured cloud communications platform, of course, built on, the best in breed technologies in the landscape, whether it be supported through Avaya, RingCentral, Microsoft, Cisco, all those best in breed names that you hear in the technology space. We have the ability to deploy any number of those solutions within this fully managed cloud-based hybrid workforce capacity. So it's really you choose, right, based on the footprint that makes the most sense for your business. Another area where we can certainly make assumptions, but the value prop really is the same across, whether it be Cisco WebEx, whether it be Microsoft Teams, whether it be Avaya Cloud Office or RingCentral Cloud Office. The value prop is the same. It's the scalability, the flexibility, the all-in-one, easy-to-use collaboration suite encompassing messaging, calling, and face-to-face collaboration or video conferencing. So that's kind of the core message. How we do it, the engine under the hood, is really, it's almost it's a secondary or tertiary conversation to where are you trying to go as a business, and does this cloud communications hybrid strategy support the business the way it needs to. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, so if they were role playing with, well, if they were meeting with Steve, and
Yep.
I really like using Microsoft. I don't want to have to change or move off that platform.
Sure.
That's great. We're glad you already have a provider that you really prefer. And that is, we don't pick the provider. We give you options. You get to
Exactly.
either who you have and who you love, or you can choose from other options that we've done an exceptionally large amount of research on
Sure.
and identified who are the best players in that particular space.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that's spot on. You know, of course, as some of our history for folks on the line as sort of as a value-added reseller, a technology integrator, we stay intimately aware of the emerging players in the technology landscape. So our portfolio, right, of solutions at our disposal, which ultimately power these collaboration bundles that we've put together, those are built on what Gartner and other top tier research firms in the industry are telling us. Hey, these are the most open standards based, easy to use, secure, highly available types of applications. So absolutely, every single one of those platforms that I mentioned have been thoroughly vetted by not only the 7,000 customers at NWN Carousel, but of course the larger industry at whole. So no, great question, clarification. And again, it's all sort of centric around that simplified end user experience, making sure that wherever they're accessing this information from, Microsoft Teams, I have it on my phone. Cisco WebEx, I have it on my phone. ACO, I don't have it on my phone, but I could, right? So I have every single one of those platforms that I can call, email, IM, and video conference via my phone, via, an application on my phone available on the App Store. So that's what it's really all about, ensuring that whatever capacity and whatever environment someone chooses to do their job from, whether they're the road warrior like Mike Wallace, pressing flesh in face-to-face meetings throughout the Northeast, or they're Steve in IT, really kind of dedicated to those physical office spaces, or they're Tricia Mansfield, again, sort of a road warrior, but certainly tethered to her cell phone full time. They have that all-in-one collaboration suite at their fingertips, whether they're in the office, the one of those corporate owned offices, they're in the home office, or they're on the road with their cell phone and their cell phone only, and that's cell service. So they have access to that same sort of unified tool set, which is of tremendous value to an organization like this. So, I wanted to get into, and hopefully this is a, good sort of topic, and we can certainly keep talking through this, but I wanted to throw out a few likely objections that you would hear from, the sellers involved in this role play. Mike Wallace as the realtor, Steve Barlow as the IT director, and Tricia Mansfield as the CEO. These types of objections, they certainly are well resounding with me, managing a team of 14 business development representatives, which are, shouting the NWN Carousel message from on high every single day. There's a lot of organizations, of course, resistant to change, constrained from a budget standpoint. They've got those very costly maintenance contracts on those legacy on-premise phone systems that they're sort of locked into, or they're on break-fix maintenance, where it's essentially, hey, the phone system just went down. Folks in the office, use your cell phones in the meantime. We're going to deploy a tech, as early as possible on a time and materials basis, essentially meaning we don't know what it's going to cost to fix it, Tricia, but you'll get the bill after the fact. That's essentially what a lot of the support contracts look like once you're dealing with aging technology that's not under a sort of a support contract or warranty. It's beyond the confines of that. That's where the cost predictability of sort of a cloud communications platform and strategy really allows sort of the financial centric individuals at an organization to sleep at night. It's very cost predictable, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So again, likely objections you're going to hear. We own 5 of our current 6 office spaces already. Doesn't that kind of support the argument of continuing to manage this on-premises gear, continuing to manage this on-premise communication infrastructure? So again, yes, while of course, we understand that there is still value to the face-to-face communication. If I never saw someone face-to-face again, I don't know what I'd do with myself, right? So we all need that interpersonal sort of connection. But the reality is even if you're in the office, you're still going to operate more efficiently with a fully managed, fully cloud-based collaboration suite at your fingertips. It's only going to make you that much more efficient at your job as you're, collaborating with peers in other offices, as you're sending your potential customer a meeting invite with a secure, audio or video bridging link to have that face-to-face type of collaboration. Another one, we've grown accustomed to having an in-house IT person. Us real estate folks are not tech savvy at all. I have zero confidence in our ability to troubleshoot systems issues relative to our phone system or our video conferencing applications, on our own, and whether they're in the cloud or they're this on-premise technology. The answer there is, NWN Carousel and the tremendous visibility you would get into your environment through the experience management platform as a part of this hybrid office collaboration bundle. It really replaces the need for sort of that day-to-day oversight from an IT personnel standpoint. We give you the visibility. We promise from a service level agreement standpoint, a certain level of uptime as it relates to the calling, messaging, and collaboration platforms. And these are based on industry standards. These are all housed in our data centers, in our secure sort of cloud environment. So you don't need to worry about making sure that the engine is running behind the scenes. And if something does happen, there's a blip in the experience at one of the offices, you're going to see it on your end through that EMP platform. But guess what? We already know about it, and we're working proactively to correct that issue, right? So that's kind of the benefit of working with an integrator, in this space, as opposed to just going out and buying your own WebEx licenses, which you could easily do through CDW, for instance. We go above and beyond in terms of offering that concierge sort of support experience. Wouldn't this type of solution mean yet another monthly service contract that someone on our team will need to manage? Well, it certainly does, but let's think about what you're replacing, right? What you're replacing is the disparate maintenance contracts or break-fix maintenance contracts on 6 phone systems that are aging. They're growing in complexity as they continue to age, and there are less and less resources familiar with that data technology. So finding someone that's comfortable managing those 6 separate phone systems on different software releases with different types of hardware requirements and bandwidth requirements, there's a tremendous amount of complexity in your environment. We're going to drastically reduce that. So the one contract we're introducing is going to replace 6 to 12 between all those phone systems and video conferencing applications within your offices. We've heard the horror stories of Zoom bombing scenarios. We all heard this early in the pandemic. Classrooms were suddenly interrupted by someone using, profane or vulgar language. These unsecured video or audio meetings create issues. Why would our experience be any different? Certainly there are best practices as it relates to creating and fostering a secure collaboration environment. Everything that NWN Carousel does is secure by design. So we ensure that, you are on the latest software releases of your cloud, conferencing services and messaging applications. We ensure that every sort of latest security patch is in place on an active basis. And that's, again, one of those benefits of the cloud. There's not as much human intervention required to keep you on the latest and greatest releases. Those updates are automatically pushed out to every single end user and every single environment that NWN Carousel is supporting. So rest assured, not only from a customer success standpoint, part of that knowledge transfer, we're going to make sure you're aware of all of the ways that you can sort of lock or restrict access to that video conference. If only 2 parties are supposed to be in that, you're not going to see anyone else joining that bridge, based on the best practices that will facilitate through your staff members. These subscription services, they lock us into a monthly contract. What about unforeseen shifts in headcount? That would really, that's almost sort of a softball. It almost really points to one of the benefits of moving to the cloud. That's the benefit of sort of the scalability and the flexibility associated with the cloud as opposed to that premise-based hardware. Let's say the Montpelier office has a phone system that only supports 12 physical ports, hardwired connections plugging into that phone switch. And they've got 10 realtors in Montpelier and they've got 2 loan officers. They go and hire that 11th realtor, suddenly someone's down a phone set. Someone does not have access to plugging in a physical phone into that office anymore. So that user is relying on their cell phone, or they're kind of SOL, for lack of a better way to put it. Again, the scalability of a cloud-based environment, really the sky is the limit, right? Within reasonable terms, a smaller to mid-market business like North Coast could not possibly exhaust on their current growth trajectory the resources available in a hybrid cloud type of environment. So simply put, an additional user is just fixed price per month per user in addition or subtraction. So if your business grows, expands or contracts, your contract on a monthly basis and your billing will reflect that. So speaking of cost predictability, you couldn't get better than that.
So it's a monthly contract, not a 3-year contract?
It would be monthly. Yep. And there are certainly benefits, and I'd probably leave a little bit of sort of that assessment to an individual salesperson's view as to what they'd like to propose as a part of this kind of two-way sales dialogue. But that is absolutely, yes, these are per user per month contracts, starting with 12-month contract terms. So I would start there, Dawn, to answer your question.
Okay. No, that's good. Can I ask one more question? Because we had a discussion last night. We were just talking about cybersecurity and that having everything saved within a safe serving place in the cloud where other people could access it, but also it would be kept there safe. The conversation that came up was around the sensitive nature that you'd normally get into with real estate, right? You've got people's social security numbers, bank numbers, a whole bunch of other highly susceptible kinds of personal information. And so we were anticipating an objection that might be, well, how do I know that information is going to be safe? How do I know that my client's information can stay in there and we won't have to worry about it and that kind of thing?
Sure. And again, within the sort of the confines of the cloud communications landscape, certainly, all of the platforms that we've onboarded as NWN Carousel and proposed to our clients are what we see as adhering to the latest security requirements from a compliance standards perspective. But if a deeper concern or objection were raised as a part of these sales motions, I would kind of simply say, hey, everything that we do across our portfolio is secure by design. We've got a team of subject matter experts with the top tier security certifications and an understanding of compliance requirements given the environment that they're walking into, whether it's a healthcare facility, a law firm, or a real estate organization. So I would say, hey, I'm not the one to answer that highly, robust sort of technical or security-based question, but we have the right resources, in-house to make sure that, hey, whatever we're standing up for your organization is adhering to the level of compliance requirements set forth by you and the Realtors Association. So that's kind of one of those things where it's not so much tap dancing; it's sort of admitting where you have or have not sort of the technical acumen to get into a certain level of granularity. Understanding folks that you may have. Some of you may have an IT background, some of you may not have any of that. Again, relying on sort of the breadth of the experiences and the resources that we have at NWN Carousel. You're not just dealing with me as the sales professional, sort of the face of our organization. You are dealing with and you're working with, as a part of every single project, a team of purpose-built and highly certified engineers in their dedicated practice area. The same person that's in front of you, whether it's a hybrid workforce collaboration tool conversation, will probably be a different individual than if you were talking about the latest CMMC compliance concerns for manufacturing companies with Department of Defense contracts. But that said, we've got the right resources to introduce to answer any of your questions. So let's set up a subsequent call to dive into that a little bit deeper.
I just want to say, for all the students too, it's okay if you don't know everything because you're not supposed to be an expert in anything like Gil was saying. But, one of the things in that type of question, I would acknowledge the customer saying, yeah, you're right. Nothing's 100%, right? In reality, in terms of we see people getting hacked all the time, even, government gets hacked, hospitals get hacked. But our experience has been, customers are doing business with us because you sort of laid out the background in terms of why people are doing business. Say, I'm not the expert in this area, so what I would like to do is bring in my technical person and we can take it to a further discussion. But acknowledge, it's okay to acknowledge because I think one of the things people make the mistake is sometimes you want to, what they want to hear, and guarantee something, and we can never really guarantee anything, because I think you go down a slippery slope when you do that.
Sure, sure. It's a great point, especially as, end users are concerned if, humans are the biggest sort of security risk, right? Our flippantly clicking on that link in an email from an address that we didn't, know existed. We are our own biggest vulnerability as it relates to information security, right? That's just the reality of kind of humanity. But again, having that, as Ed said, that team of experts and those, dedicated staff members to kind of lean on or lower our blood pressure as to, hey, here's the vetting that we did, before we onboarded Cisco and Microsoft and Avaya and RingCentral as sort of our cloud collaboration platforms of choice. Here's the vetting that we did on the back end, and here are some additional tools that we can put in place aside from this current conversation around collaboration. Here's some additional tools that we can put in place to, help you sleep at night, knowing that your information is in good hands and protected the way it needs to be. So thank you, Ed. Great call out. Anything else, Dawn? Awesome. Let's see. And a few more. Many of our users are old school, right? Or they want that physical handset phone at their workstation. Now, moving to a cloud-based collaboration platform or strategy does not mean that no physical appliances can be hooked into that. We certainly understand that a lot of individuals are going to want a headset. They're going to want a physical phone set at their workstation, their home office, wherever it is. Being in a cloud communications realm does not mean that, oh, I can't plug anything in. You still absolutely have access to all those sort of associated technologies that may only serve to improve the user experience. If you're someone who's behind the desk all the time, maybe you don't want to just rely on the camera that comes with the laptop that North Coast gave you when you were onboarded. Maybe you do want something a little more high def with some pan, tilt, zoom capabilities. Again, those are a lot of the associated technologies that you can plug and play within sort of the cloud communications that all-in-one bundle. So rest assured that, hey, while we talk of the cloud, the mystique of, where's the engine behind this all-in-one collaboration bundle, that all exists in the cloud. But that said, all of the associated technologies, if you still want that physical handset to answer the phone, if you want a headset with, noise canceling speaker phones, those are absolutely technologies that integrate all the same into this kind of cloud communications environment. Let me think. And then lastly, we still need someone capable of deploying this type of solution, right? The answer is, of course, yeah, there are still, of course, smart hands involved in a successful deployment. But again, that's one of the key values of NWN Carousel. Our on-site technicians, which is not necessarily relevant for a cloud communications conversation, but our firm project management methodology ensures that, hey, before we disconnect the phone system from every one of those 6 offices, we're sure that all of the new capabilities and the new applications that we've stood up are working as they should before we pull the plug on that antiquated premise-based technology that you have now. So, again, the NWN Carousel hybrid offers, it's one experience, right? Regardless of where you are, what type of device you're on. It's the same experience whether you're messaging, you're meeting, you're using a face-to-face sort of collaboration technology like this, or you're calling. The experience management platform, I won't get in granularity to each of these, but again, there's a lot of additional information, and Dawn, I can provide that to you after the fact on our website relative to all of our offerings. So I would urge everyone to go on NWNcarousel.com, start poking around there. You'll very quickly see a trend around all of the work around sort of hybrid and collaboration strategies that, we're currently investing in heavily, given the demands of our customers. But again, EMP provides that sort of single pane of glass interface to allow Tricia or whoever may kind of, manage other members of the staff to make sure that they're utilizing all of the tools at their disposal to the utmost use for them in the organization. And then the reason we have sort of those 3 manufacturers across the bottom are, this is an NWN Carousel experience to our end customer. The engine, the what's behind the scenes is all sort of means to an end. It's all delivering sort of the same unified calling, messaging, and meeting or video conferencing platform. So Avaya, has their flavor of this hybrid work bundle. Cisco has Cisco WebEx, and Microsoft Teams. You know, a lot of the big names that you've heard in the industry. It's sort of that's the engine behind it, but it's really you choose based on your environment what makes the most sense for, you know, yourself in the growth curve of North Coast. But that said, any single one of these in our assessment, based on what we understand about your business, the anticipated growth, you'd be in great hands based on our understanding of the players in the industry with any of these three. But let's get into a deeper conversation with our technical experts and figure out what, you know, which one may work best for the broadest swath of your user population. So additionally, as it says here, you know, the implementation and the migration services, ensuring that everything is secure by design, as we call it, the monitoring, monitoring and operating this environment, of course, is all managed through, you know, NWN Carousel, and you have the visibility through experience management platform, and then integrated SIP services. And this kind of relates to the ability to, you know, sort of place calls from wherever you are, and I'll get into that here in a moment. So the solution overview at a high level, you know, when we sort of threw what is an industry standard sort of price point at this for your you know, assumption, and however you want to build sort of the financial case. But, you know, NWN Carousel's hybrid office solution encompassing calling, messaging, and meetings per user per month is $20. So $20 per user per month. And that's going to scale with your business up and down. That does include, and James, I know there was a question last time relative to carriers. So that wouldn't necessarily include, you'll still need a data connection into
Right.
each one of these offices.
Yeah.
Right, you'll still need some of that, you know, that access to the internet. But that said, once that access to the internet is in place and it's adequate, given that, you know, current user population, this is a fixed price per user per month for access to calling, you know, internal and external calling, meetings, and messaging. Okay, and then again, just to kind of you know, sum up at a higher level, we're not focusing on the technical aspects of the solution, focusing on the core, you know, the core values that it delivers in support of those positive business outcomes. The ease of management, right? It's the ability for Trisha, if she decides to take a look at, you know, who's utilizing that cloud video conferencing application the most. Hey, you know, I see that, you know, Mike Wallace, our realtor in Hartford, Connecticut, I see that he hasn't, you know, utilized video conferencing in 2 weeks or since we implemented this new phone system. Let me get on the line with NWN Carousel, our customer success manager, to make sure that Mike doesn't need a refresher training on how to access and how to utilize that application, how to send an invite to one of his potential or current customers. So that's kind of some of the ongoing handholding that you would experience working with us. So ease of management, scalability, as I mentioned, there's no concern with growth or reduction in force. It's a per user, per month, licensing based sort of pricing and consumption model. You've got new users getting onboarded. It's just an additional user that you're being billed for per month, $20 per user per month. And that scales on a month-to-month basis, given the demands of your business. Flexibility, as I mentioned before, wherever you are, delivering that same experience, ease of use across a broad range of devices and office environments, or, you know, car windshield time environments that our realtors may face. Cost predictability, again, as the business grows and possibly contracts at different points in time, it's predictable. Here's how many users I have, $20 per user per month for my calling, meeting, and messaging needs. And again, lastly, you know, where does NWN Carousel fit in? We're one partner. We provide that simplified sort of deployment, support, and ongoing management experience. Being that integrated cloud communications provider, as the demands of your business shift over time, and maybe there's some new increased complexity in the environment, as Dawn said, maybe there's you know, an audit, a security auditor that comes in and kind of wants to see, you know, how records are being maintained. This is again where we can get out in front of that with subject matter experts across cybersecurity, devices, networking, contact center, unified communications, visual collaboration, and make sure that we're introducing the right individuals into that conversation to help you solve those business challenges. So, but again, don't take our word for it. We've got over 6,000 customers that have entrusted us with their most critical, mission critical communications infrastructure and technologies. And again, continue to sort of insert those proof points, as I had mentioned last week. Look on the website. You'll see a lot of customer call outs, a lot of testimonials from happy and satisfied customers with NWN Carousel based on us delivering on our promise. So I'll stop there. I'll get off my podium. What questions do we have?
You did a really good job, by the way. Love when you speak about it. It's just like breathing for you. And everybody else here will be practicing, and that's great too. But really cool to hear somebody, by the way, for all of you on, hear somebody so passionate about their company and what they do. And you're looking for that when you're thinking about companies that you want to work for. If people don't sound like Gil when they're talking about what they do and what they have, it may not be the place you want to be, because there just may be something that company's just missing out on. So what questions does the group have? You guys are all here. This is an awesome and last chance, actually, to ask questions of Carousel, to ask some inquiries. And there's no bad questions. The only bad question is the one that you don't ask, unfortunately, and you wish the information. So really want to turn it over to see if any students might have questions, curiosities. It can be very early in the process, too.
Yeah, I had a quick one.
Go ahead, Greg.
For part of the solutions, does NWN provide like solutions for like that? I know you guys provide solutions for hybrid. Do those include like solutions for like the metaverse interaction stuff, or like the HoloLens from like Microsoft, stuff like that?
Oh, that's a great question. That's definitely one of those emerging technologies. I'm not entirely sure. And it was the first comment you made, the metaverse. Is that what I heard there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a great question, Greg. And I'd be honest with you, I'd have to defer to some of our experts. I don't know exactly where we stand on that currently. I think we're still sort of in early phases of listening to the marketplace on that augmented reality type of experience. Certainly, I'd very much imagine we're in a powerful position, given our place in the industry and with some of those key partners that we mentioned, Microsofts of the world, et cetera. I'd say it's going to be early on about listening to the demands of our customers. And if that's something that we hear more steadily called for, the first questions that we're going to ask to our external business partners is, hey, how do we make sure that we're telling the right story on your behalf, Microsoft, to serve our customers as holistically as we can? But candidly, that's definitely not a question I'm comfortable answering on the fly. But it is a great one, and I'll take it back and see what I can offer up. Dawn, I'll shoot you an email if I can add any more color to that. Great question. Thank you.
That was a great question. Who else has a question?
You're welcome.
Luke or Josh or Shane, Will, any of you have any questions?
I would say all my questions were pretty much answered through your objectives part, or the objections part. You did a really great job covering that. So that was like the biggest part for me. So
awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. And those objections, those aren't all encompassing, right? The individuals that will be a part of this role play exercise for you, they'll have their own sort of thoughts on the fly as to ways to maybe kind of trip you up, and it's all in the spirit of helping you think on your feet and putting you in what will be a real life scenario for anyone that ends up on this sort of sales trajectory. So if you hear an objection and you're really not comfortable answering it, as Ed said, it's okay to sort of acknowledge that out of the gate. The worst thing you can do is make something up, right? The worst thing that you can do is make up something to sort of hope that it appeases and okay, the question's answered. I pray to God that what I said is correct. You don't want to put yourself in that position, right? Because the minute that turns out to be an untruth, you couldn't have lost any more credibility. So fall on the sword. It's completely okay in this very intricate and always evolving landscape to candidly acknowledge, hey, I'll be honest with you, that's outside of my comfort zone, and answering for you on the fly let me ask you an additional follow-up question. What makes that important to you at this point in time? I would always put that back on them. Every time we hear an objection, it's an additional way to pull a little bit more information. That objection is seated in their misunderstanding of something or some sort of discomfort that they have. So while you can't answer their question, you feel like, oh boy, what value can I offer here? Asking a clarifying question to pull a little bit more information out of them so that the next time you speak, you can come that much more well-armed. That's going to go a really long way. Okay. And that's what you want to, portray in the instance of, oh my gosh, that objection came out of left field. They asked me about some coding issue that I never would ever be in my purview. Okay, but what is it about, your current environment or experience that brings that concern top of mind for you, James? Right? And then kind of go from there. Pull more information, write it down, and ensure that you'll follow up with that information to the best of your ability with the right feedback from some of your internal staff members. You will get tripped up by objections. It is human nature. So
one of the things I would say too, though, objections are good, and the reason they're good is because basically saying, give me a reason, I'm interested, so help me be comfortable or confident that this solution is right. But if you have that type of engaging, then it's good. If you go through a meeting, you have no objections, you're in trouble.
Great point.
On the line, you lost them. And then secondly, one that I know some of you may or may not be thinking about is cost, right? The objection of your product's too expensive. And when you're doing a solution sell, there's several things. There's the cost that you see on a piece of paper, but other things, how you break that up is, ability to now be more efficient, the savings that you can do maybe from reducing space and office space. Those are things that you in your discovery process, you go back and you reduce what that customer sees on paper, because what they see on paper may be a shock, but when you start pointing out all the benefits, significantly reduces what they're seeing on that paper.
Yep. Yes, no, great point. Not everything's measured in dollars and cents, but it can be in some form directly or indirectly likely tied into that bottom line, right? So, okay, so you're telling me because you're not comfortable, sort of, 10% of your realtors on staff are not comfortable with that video conferencing application. So guess what? They choose to get in the car instead and drive that hour and a half to and from Montpelier, from wherever it is. What could they do with that 3 hours as opposed? Could they, prospect a little bit more? What's the opportunity cost of 3 hours of windshield time for that individual? So there's so many ways you can dig into that. That's a great call.
That is a great call. Does anyone else have any questions? Wow, it's the end of the day. I'm starting to trip on my own tongue. Okay.
Yeah, well, please, Dawn, subsequent to this, I always found that, as I kind of be continuing to prepare something for an exercise like this, things bubble up. Please don't suffer in silence. Ambiguity is always a part of this. And guess what? Any sales call for the future sales professionals out there will contain a certain amount of, you don't know exactly what you're walking into, but be as prepared as you can. Take plenty of time to absorb the information on the website. Donna, you'll see the slideshows from me here right after our call. And I'd welcome any additional questions you want to relay and get those answered for you folks.
Absolutely. I can totally gather those. When we'll do feedback, or not feedback, we'll follow up after this for everybody who's competing. So I can always gather it that way too. But I really appreciate your time.
Great job, Gil.
And the information that you've shared. I know Jim and Ed feel the same way, not to speak for them, but just we talk about how often you are often, at least on an everyday basis. But anyway, so I just wanted to say thank you. This was exceptionally good. I think once they really start to get into the objection practice part, right, that's where, oh my God, what do I say here? You know what I mean? That's till the rubber hits the road. Sometimes it seems all easy and fine until you actually do it.
No, that's it. Yeah. That's part of the beauty of learning and staying outside of your comfort zone. So
it's true. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks,
Likewise.
Gil.
No, thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
Gil.
great evening.
Yeah.
Right.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.